Have you ever felt that there's something inside you that you can't explain? A spark that shines silently, but that the world seems determined to extinguish? Imagine for a moment that one day you wake up and realize that this light, this strength you carry within, not only exists but has the power to change everything. Your relationships, your peace, your entire life. Carl Jung, the one who explored the deepest corners of the human soul, called it the secret of your inner kingdom. And today, right now, you're about to discover it. It's not about searching outside, waiting for someone else to save you or give you permission to shine. It's about looking within and claiming what has always been yours. Are you ready to take that step? Because the day you recognize your light, no one, absolutely no one, can dim it. Carl Jung dedicated his life to understanding why we feel so disconnected from ourselves. He believed that we all carry a universe inside, a vast, mysterious place where our fears, our dreams, and our true essence reside. But in the hustle of daily life, responsibilities, expectations, social media bombarding us with perfect lives, we've forgotten how to listen to that inner voice that Jung called the unconscious. To put it simply, the unconscious is like a silent guide that doesn't speak in words but in emotions, intuitions, and sometimes even those weird dreams you have and don't know where they come from. It's that gut feeling when something's off, even though everything seems perfect on the surface. Think about those times you've been in a relationship, maybe romantic, a friendship, or even family, that seemed right to others but left you with an inexplicable emptiness. Maybe you met someone who promised you the world, said the pretty words you wanted to hear, but every time you were around them, you felt something was missing. Or perhaps it happened with a job. Everyone told you it was the opportunity of a lifetime, but when you got home, you felt exhausted, like you'd left a piece of yourself at the office. Jung would say that's not a coincidence. It's your unconscious screaming at you, begging you to pay attention, to stop ignoring what you really feel. Because here's Jung's first big discovery. When you ignore that voice, you betray yourself. And that betrayal comes at a cost. Has it ever happened to you that you start the day with energy, ready to take on the world, but after talking to a certain person or spending time in a place that doesn't fill you, you feel like someone unplugged your battery? That's not bad luck or just a gray day. It's a sign. Jung explained it with a concept he called the shadow. The shadow is all those things you hide from yourself, those parts you don't like or don't want to show the world, insecurities, fears, even that anger you sometimes feel and don't know why. But here's the twist. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's a part of you that's asking to be seen, accepted, and integrated. Imagine this. You're at a gathering with friends at a cafe in downtown Bogota or a park in Mexico City, and suddenly someone makes a comment that throws you off. It's not the first time it's happened with that person. You tell yourself, oh, I'm overreacting. I shouldn't be so bothered. But Jung would say, you're not overreacting. That irritation is your shadow peeking out, showing you something you need to work on. Maybe that friend, without knowing it, is touching an old wound. Like when you felt invisible as a child, or when someone made you believe your emotions didn't matter. The shadow doesn't disappear if you ignore it. On the contrary, it grows stronger and shows up in your relationships, your decisions, even in how you talk to yourself in front of the mirror. Now let's pause for a second. Take a deep breath. Feel that? That moment of calm? It's a good time to ask yourself, what am I ignoring in my life right now? What feeling, what intuition have I been pushing to the back because I don't want to face it? You don't need to answer out loud, but hold on to that question. We'll come back to it later because this journey with Jung is just beginning. Let's get back on track. Imagine you're facing two paths in your life, like you're at a crossroads in a forest. One path is full of light, with clear signs and lots of people walking it. It's the easy path, the one everyone applauds, like staying in that relationship that works even though it doesn't make you happy, or sticking with that job that pays the bills but dims your soul. The other path is dark, full of branches and rocks, and no one seems to go that way. It's the path of the unknown, the one that asks you to face your fears, your doubts, and that little voice that says, what if I'm not good enough? Jung would say that true kingship, the moment your light shines brightest, begins when you choose the dark path. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. Think of Maria, a 32-year-old woman in Guadalajara. Maria spent years in a relationship where everything seemed perfect. Her boyfriend was attentive, her family adored him, and her friends told her she was lucky. But every night when she went to bed, she felt a knot in her chest. She couldn't explain it, but something didn't fit. One day, while watching a sunset in Chapultepec, she had a thought as clear as water. This isn't for me. It was her unconscious speaking. Maria decided to end that relationship, not because he was bad, but because it wasn't her truth. And though she felt fear and loneliness at first, months later she started painting again, something she'd abandoned for years, and met people who inspired her to be herself. That's what Jung calls individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, without masks. Before we move on, I'll take a moment to tell you that my book is now available. It's full of tips and techniques to help you overcome emotional blocks and love yourself more. Find the link in the description and the pinned comment. Let's continue. Here's a practical action for you, something you can do today. Grab a notebook and write down 3 moments when you felt that knot in your stomach, that intuition you ignored. Don't judge what you write, just let it out. That's the first step to listening to your unconscious and starting to integrate your shadow. And if you're up for it, share in the comments what you discovered by doing it. I'd love to read it, and I'm sure it'll inspire others too with your courage. Before we go further, I want to remind you of something. This video is made for you, to help you discover your light and make it shine. If what you've heard so far resonates with you, give it a like and share it with that friend who needs a nudge to find themselves. Every time you share, you help this message reach more people who need it. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it now and turn on the bell. This is just the start. So what happens when you start listening to that inner voice? Your energy changes. And your energy, believe me, is sacred. Jung would say it's like the fuel of your soul, what lets you get up each day and chase what you love. But sometimes, without realizing it, you let certain people or situations steal it. Has it ever happened that you leave a conversation feeling drained, like someone squeezed you dry? That's not a coincidence. It's a clue that something or someone isn't aligned with your essence. Think of Laura, a 40-year-old mom in Los Angeles. Laura had a friend who always came to her with problems, but never asked how she was. At first, Laura accepted it. That's what friendships are like. But over time, she started feeling empty after every call. One day, following Jung's ideas, she decided to set a boundary. I'm going to protect my energy. She started saying no kindly and spending more time with people who filled her up instead of draining her. The result? Her light came back. She found peace and even picked up her dream of learning guitar, which she'd put off for years. Protecting your energy isn't selfishness, it's self-love. And self-love, according to Jung, is the foundation of your inner kingdom. So here's another question to reflect on. Who or what is draining your energy right now? You don't have to act today, but start noticing it. Because when you protect your energy, you open the door to relationships and experiences that lift you up instead of dimming you. Let's take another quick pause. Imagine you're holding a flashlight in your hands. That flashlight is your inner light, and every time you choose to listen to your intuition or protect your energy, you make it shine brighter. What would you do if you knew no one could turn it off unless you let them? Hold on to that image because we're going to keep exploring it. That flashlight in your mind, that light no one can turn off unless you allow it. So are you ready to take the next step in this journey with Carl Jung? Because once you start protecting your energy and listening to your unconscious, something magical begins to happen. You realize that the relationships and decisions that once weighed you down start to transform. But it's not all easy. Jung taught us that the path to your inner kingdom, that place where your light shines without fear, means facing what you fear most, your shadows, your doubts, and those ties that bind you to a version of yourself you're no longer. Let's talk about relationships, because if there's one thing Jung understood well, it's that the people we choose to keep close are a mirror of our inner world. He called this projection, the idea that what you see in others, what you love, what you hate, what drives you up the wall, is a reflection of something inside you. Has it ever happened that you meet someone who seems perfect at first, but over time you realize something's off? Maybe you fell for their laugh or how they made you feel special, But then you started noticing patterns, repeated arguments, promises they don't keep, or that feeling you're giving more than you're getting. Think of Sophia, a 28-year-old woman in Medellin. Sophia was in a 3-year relationship with someone everyone saw as the ideal man. But every time he showed up late or canceled plans, she felt small, like she didn't matter. At first, she blamed herself. I must be too demanding. But one day, reading about Jung, she realized that feeling wasn't just about her boyfriend. It was a projection of an old wound from when her dad left her waiting as a child and she felt invisible. Her shadow, that part of her still carrying that pain, was coming to light. Instead of keeping the blame on herself, Sophia decided to work on herself. She ended that relationship and started healing that wound, giving herself the love she'd once sought outside. This is what Jung wants you to understand. Your relationships aren't accidents. They're messages from your unconscious, invitations to look within. If you're in a relationship, romantic, friendship, or even with yourself, where you feel you have to hide who you are, change to fit in, or beg for attention, that's not love. It's a sign you're betraying your light. And when you betray your light, the universe gives it back to you in the form of chaos, pointless fights, constant exhaustion, or that feeling you're not living your life, but someone else's. Now imagine you're walking through a market in Oaxaca or a park in Houston, and suddenly you meet someone who makes you feel alive again. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to change. You're just you, and that person seems to see it and celebrate it. That, according to Jung, is what happens when you align with your true self. He called it individuation, that process of taking off the mask you've worn to please others and starting to live from your essence. But to get there, you have to let go of what doesn't belong to you. Letting go isn't easy. We've all been there, clinging to a relationship or an idea because we think, if I try harder, this will work. But Jung would say, stop. Listen, if every step you take in that relationship is full of obstacles, misunderstandings, tears, exhaustion, it's not bad luck. It's your unconscious telling you this isn't for you. And when you let go, you don't lose. You win. You win clarity, you win peace, and you open space for what is aligned with your light. Think of Carla, a 45-year-old woman in Miami. Carla spent years trying to hold on to a friendship that drained her. Her friend was always in crisis, and Carla felt it was her duty to save her. But every time she hung up the phone, she felt empty. One day, inspired by Jung, she decided to let go. She told her friend kindly, I need space for myself. At first, she felt guilty, but then she noticed something incredible. She started having time for her own projects, like that cooking class she'd always wanted to take. And little by little, new people came into her life. People who didn't just take, but also gave. That's what happens when you choose your light over chaos. Here's another practical action. Make a short list of the relationships you have right now. It can be in your mind or on paper. And ask yourself, does this person lift me up or drain me? Be honest with yourself. You don't have to cut ties today, but start noticing who dims you and who turns on your flashlight. And if you want, share in the comments what you felt doing this exercise. Your words might inspire someone else to take that step. Let's take a quick pause. Close your eyes for a second and breathe. Imagine you're letting go of a heavy backpack you've carried for years. How does your back feel without that weight? Hold on to that feeling because that's what Jung wants you to experience. Lightness, freedom, authenticity. Let's keep going. When you let go of what doesn't serve you, you don't just free up space in your life. You send a powerful message to your unconscious. I'm ready for something better. And the universe responds. Jung talked about something called synchronicity. When things start aligning in an almost magical way. It's not a coincidence. It's confirmation you're on the right path. Maybe you meet someone new just when you need it, or an opportunity pops up out of nowhere. That happens when you live from your truth. But living from your truth isn't always comfortable. Sometimes your unconscious calls you toward something new, something that scares you. Imagine you're at home in Cali or in an apartment in Chicago, and suddenly you feel the urge to try something different. Painting, salsa dancing, writing a journal. But a voice in your head says, why bother? You're too old for that. That's fear talking, not your essence. Jung would say that urge, that curiosity, is your unconscious showing you a path to your kingdom. Answering that call takes courage, but on the other side is a version of you that shines brighter than ever. Think of Anna, a 35-year-old woman in Monterey. Anna always wanted to take dance classes but told herself, "I don't have time. My kids come first." One day, tired of putting it off, she signed up for a Zumba class. At first she felt clumsy, but with every step she started laughing more, loosening up. And something changed. At home with her kids, she was more present, happier. That's individuation in action. When you give yourself permission to be you, everything around you transforms. Here's another reflection. What desire have you been putting off because you think it's not practical or important? It doesn't have to be big. It could be reading a book, walking alone in the park, or trying that recipe you saw on TikTok. This week, do one small thing for yourself, just because it makes you happy. And if you're up for it, tell me in the comments how it felt. Every story you share helps this community grow. Before we move to the next part, I want to remind you this message is for you, to help you find your light and make it shine. If it's resonating with you, give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming. Together we can bring this transformation to more people. Now, what happens when you start living from your authenticity? Your light doesn't just turn on, it starts attracting what you truly deserve. But it also brings a challenge: chaos. Because the path to your inner kingdom isn't free of storms. Jung said there's no awakening without pain, and that's what we're going to explore next. If you've made it this far, you already know that the path to your inner kingdom, that place where your light shines and no one can dim it, isn't a peaceful stroll through the park. Jung made it clear: the awakening of your consciousness, that moment when you realize who you really are, comes with pain, with chaos, with storms. But here's the good news: that chaos isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's the fire that purifies, the mess that gives way to a new, more authentic, more you kind of order. So get ready, because we're about to dive into how to face those storms and come out of them with your flashlight shining brighter than ever. Let's talk about those moments when everything seems to fall apart. Maybe you lost a relationship you thought would last forever, or a job that defined who you were, or perhaps you're stuck on an emotional roller coaster. One day you feel invincible, and the next you don't even know where to start. Jung saw chaos as a signal from the unconscious, a cry saying, "Stop! Something's out of place." It's not a punishment, it's an opportunity, because within that disorder lies the key to your transformation. Think of Daniela, a 38-year-old woman in Bogota. Daniela spent months crying after a breakup. Her ex had promised her a future together, but suddenly it was over. She felt lost, like her life had no meaning without him. But one day, sitting on her balcony with a cup of coffee, she started writing what she felt. At first it was tears on the page, but then questions came up. Why does this hurt so much? What part of me left with him? Following Jung's ideas, Daniela realized she wasn't just crying for her ex, but for a shadow she'd carried since childhood: the fear of not being enough. That emotional chaos led her to face herself, to integrate that shadow. Today, Daniela isn't just at peace. She's studying photography, something she always wanted to do but never dared. Chaos, according to Jung, is like a teacher in disguise. It pushes you to ask the hard questions. What am I holding on to that no longer serves me? What part of me needs healing? And when you dare to answer, something shifts. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start seeing the patterns, the lessons. That's what Jung called integration, taking those broken parts of you, the ones that hurt, the ones you hide, and turning them into strength. Let's pause here. Take another deep breath. Imagine you're in the middle of a storm, but in your hands you hold that flashlight no one can turn off. What do you see through the rain? What's the chaos asking you to let go of or embrace? Don't answer yet, just feel it. We'll come back to this. Let's keep going. When you face the chaos, you don't just heal. You start building a life that reflects your true essence. Jung believed that the purpose of life isn't superficial happiness, the kind that comes from Instagram likes or meeting others' expectations, but wholeness, And wholeness comes when you connect with your authentic self, that version of you that doesn't need mass or permission to exist. But getting there requires a radical act of love. Loving yourself enough to choose yourself, even when the world asks you to settle. Think about how you talk to yourself sometimes. Have you caught yourself saying, I can't do this, I'm not enough, or what will people think of me? Those words aren't yours. They're echoes of what you were taught to believe. Jung would say they're invisible chains tying you to a smaller version of yourself. Breaking them starts with something simple but powerful. Cultivating a loving relationship with yourself. Spend time getting to know yourself. Ask, what makes me happy? What scares me? What dream have I locked away because someone told me it wasn't for me? Here's a practical action. Tonight before bed, look in the mirror and say out loud, my light matters. It sounds cheesy, I know, but do it. Feel the words, repeat it 3 times. It's a direct message to your unconscious, a way of saying, I'm here for me. And if you're up for it, tell me in the comments how it felt to try it. Those small actions are what ignite your kingdom. Because when you choose yourself, everything changes. The relationships you attract transform. You stop looking for people to complete you and start finding those who walk with you on your path. The opportunities that come aren't random. They're reflections of your energy. Jung explained it with synchronicity. When you're aligned with your truth, the universe aligns with you. It's like life saying, keep going, you're doing great. Think of Lucia, a 50-year-old woman in Tijuana. Lucia spent years feeling trapped in a marriage where she couldn't be herself. But one day, fed up with pretending, she started therapy and explored Jung's ideas. She learned to listen to her intuition and realized she deserved more. She ended that relationship with respect but firmness. Soon after, she started traveling alone for the first time. On one of those trips, she met someone who didn't ask her to change but inspired her to grow. That's synchronicity, the universe responding to your courage. But it's not all flowers and butterflies. There will be dark days, days when you doubt, when the outside noise, opinions, criticism, and what will they say try to dim your light. Jung knew this journey isn't linear. That's why he insisted that connecting with your unconscious is a daily practice. Listen to your dreams, write what you feel, pay attention to those gut feelings you can't explain. The more you do it, the stronger that connection becomes, and the easier it is to tell what's yours from what's been imposed on you. Let's take another quick pause. Imagine your life as a blank canvas. Every decision, every relationship, every thought is a brushstroke. What are you painting? A picture that fills you with pride or one someone else designed for you? Hold on to that image because it's the heart of this message. Now let's wrap up this journey with a quick summary and a message you won't forget. Everything you've heard today boils down to this. The day you recognize your light, no one can turn it off. Jung showed us that inside you is a universe waiting to be explored. Your unconscious speaks to you with signs, intuitions, emotions, chaos, guiding you to your inner kingdom. Face your shadows, protect your energy, let go of what doesn't serve you, and choose your authenticity. When you do, synchronicity will make everything fit. Relationships that lift you up, dreams that come true, and a peace that doesn't depend on anyone else. This is your moment. Reflect. What are you ready to let go of today? What part of you have you been hiding that deserves to shine? You don't need all the answers now, but start with a small step. Listen to your inner voice, honor your light, and live from your truth. Because the world doesn't just need your light, it needs you to make it shine without fear. Before I say goodbye, here's my invitation. If this message touched your heart, give it a like and share it with someone who needs to remember it. Imagine how many lives we can transform together if this video reaches more people. Subscribe if you haven't yet, turn on the bell, and leave me a comment below. Tell me what you're taking from this video, what you'll do differently today, or just what you felt listening to it. Your words don't just inspire me, they inspire this whole community growing with you. Thanks for being here, for listening, for being part of this journey. Life is full of possibilities and you have the power to choose how you want to live it. Do it with your light on, because when you dare to shine, you don't just change your world. You inspire others to do the same. See you in the next video. Remember, the change starts with you. I'll be waiting.